Joining us now from Braves Spring Training, Fox 5's Miles Garrett. Thank you so much for joining us, Miles.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Wish you guys could have the weather down here. It's really nice.
Yeah, I was about to say, you getting a nice tan down there?
Yeah, I know the half Indian side in me is starting to come out a little bit, so it's grateful. It's been a long winter.
There we go, man. All right, well, we heard a ton of stuff from Alex Anthopoulos today in his first appearance at Spring Training. Can you break kind of the big points that you remember down? Because there were a ton of tidbits that are very important to this team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, Alex Anthopoulos likes to keep things very close to the chest, so there wasn't a whole lot of things that we didn't already know per se. The big thing, or the big takeaways I got, is obviously the big storylines is still present for them as well. Who is going to be that fifth starter? You still have sort of that assumption of your top four being Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, Chris Sale. Maybe you throw Bryce Elder in there, Max Fried. Obviously, we know what he can do. But then, who's that number 5 going to be? Is it going to be Bryce Elder? Is it going to be AJ Smith-Shawver? A name that I think is actually very interesting, who Alex Anthopoulos mentioned, who Spencer Strider mentioned, who Charlie Morton mentioned. All of them have said this, and I think it's a little bit of a surprise. Hurston Waldrop, last year's first-round pick, and they're saying he could potentially make a run at that fifth starter. Now, I don't expect him to be on that opening day roster. I'm assuming he'll probably take some time to maybe work his way up. I mean, he had a meteoric rise through the minors last year. But don't discount seeing him potentially as a starting role for Atlanta this year, if not maybe kind of starting him off in the bullpen. But he's definitely a name that has risen up a few times and will be exciting to see here in the first few spring training matchups.
Yeah, me and Chase actually were talking about it yesterday, that Hurston Waldrop is the most pro-ready prospect, compared to AJ Smith-Shawver. And I kind of put it like this: Hurston Waldrop's stuff is ready for the MLB. There's no doubt about that. But the breadth of talent competing for that fifth spot is going to make it difficult. Like you said, I don't really expect him to be that to earn that fifth spot because I think, if you're neck and neck with, say, a guy like Bryce Elder or Ronaldo Lopez, who have much more experience than Hurston Waldrop, you're going to go with the veteran and let the younger guy develop in AAA. So that is actually something we talked about yesterday. Good to hear, guys like Charlie Morton, who've been around the game forever, has some of the nastiest stuff, recognizing, an equal talent in Hurston Waldrop. I noticed Alex Anthopoulos talk about Jared Kelenic a bit and how the plan is for him to get everyday reps. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, he said, he could be out there at like you took the words out of my mouth, everyday reps. It could be a guy that they immediately throw out there. You maybe not want to see Marcell Ozuna out there in the outfield taking everyday reps. I think he's going to probably keep that designated hitter distinction, which I think they've kind of found a happy medium there at the end of the season. But I think they talked a lot about Alex Anthopoulos, talked a lot about patience. He brought up examples like Michael Harris getting out to a slow start, and they were able to kind of navigate their way through that with their record. They were able to go through periods where those guys were going through slumps, and he specifically mentioned Michael Harris. So I think that's one you can kind of count on maybe in the outfield as being your option to be not only your opening day starter, but giving him time to kind of figure things out if he needs to. So I think that's going to be a big thing. He's one of the first early arrivals here. I saw him at his locker, and he was here early with the pitchers and catchers. He, alongside Michael Harris, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, have all been here. The only few guys I haven't seen yet are Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, and I'm sure they're going to be here any day now. But as far as the early arrivals, those guys, are here and getting ready with the team, and I think that's the most optimistic you can be about those guys who you still aren't quite sure about. Jared Kelenic, I think, is a name that, a lot of folks, they see the stats and they're like, what is he exactly? And I think fans will see pretty quickly what he is. And, I think we're excited to see what he can be because they're speaking very highly of him, and all signs seem to be pointing towards him being the starting opening day, rather, not center fielder, mixing my words up today, left fielder.
Yeah. If there's anything we know about Ronald Acuna Jr., he's probably playing baseball somewhere out there in the world. The guy never seems to take a break. Talk to us about the other Alex Anthopoulos. I saw him talk about Chris Sale and how excited he was, and I think he said something about how the more that they learned about Chris Sale, the more that they started to love the acquisition, even after they had already met it. So Alex Anthopoulos, he did that homework before the fact, before the trade, but it feels like the more that they get to know him, the more they hear things from former teammates, players, coaches, etc., that they love this acquisition even more. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I thought the interesting thing about that one, and maybe some Braves fans may know about this, some may not, but they were in on Chris Sale a while ago. They were looking at it. They said that the conversations about Sale were ongoing for years, about trying to get a guy like that on this team, and it finally fell through. And I did think it was kind of interesting. Alex Anthopoulos did talk about, or he did address rather, the fact that things don't necessarily get out a lot with the team. And he said that's because only him and Terry McGurk are in the know. He's like, he doesn't let anyone know of his intentions outside of Terry McGurk and occasionally Alex Anthopoulos. He did say his son did find out early about Chris Sale and he was able to keep the secret. But I did think it was interesting. Maybe. He kind of get an insight there as far as why things tend to not leak when it comes to Alex Anthopoulos.
Well, I don't know how, but someone gave me the Chris Sale information before it broke. And they actually,
that's right. I saw that. I forgot.
What's funny is I broke that news before Jeff Passan, and I was actually scared to do it. I knew it an hour and a half before, and I knew that Vaughn Grissom was the centerpiece of the deal. I could have tweeted out that entire deal 2 hours before Jeff Passan. And that's not even a joke.
You did. No, I remember. You were the first one on that. I remember that. This account.
You should say something to Anthopoulos.
I could have. So I wonder if I have Alex Anthopoulos' son's burner tweeting me deals whenever he hears them. Because I'm not joking. This is the third time this guy. So this is just some random guy. I have no idea who he is, and he will just randomly tweet me Braves news, and like this happens semi-regularly, and sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. I don't usually tweet it out because I don't want to look like an idiot. Well, this guy was now 3 for 3. He told me Max Fried's elbow injury was much worse than originally put out there when he went on the 10-day IL last year. He told me something else, and so this was the third time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tweet something out there. I'll finally do it. I mean, he's 2 for 2, and the things that he were tweeting, you could only know if you were in the know. And he had the entire deal. I mean, he had Vaughn Grissom. At first, it was Braves close to Chris Sale, and then he goes, deal's pretty much complete. Vaughn Grissom is going in the deal. I swear to God on this.
Man, we need to figure out who this source is.
I mean, I could tell you what his Twitter is, but it doesn't.
Can't get your sources.
I'm not gonna
keep
No. There's no. I would never do it. I'm just saying, I could show you personally, the tweet. I you're close enough to me. I would show you. This is legit. I'm not even joking about this. I want to ask you, because this is now the phrase. We're the second.
I want to ask Miles this just because I want to phrase it a specific way. The phrase is World Series or bust. Everybody's heard it. Multiple people are saying it. I want to ask you, because you're in person. You're looking them in the eye. I want to ask you, obviously, everybody's feeling that intensity has kind of gone up a level, but in their eyes, when AJ Minter, Spencer Strider, and these guys, Brian Snitker, are saying it's World Series or bust, what are you seeing in their eyes? You're seeing a fire type deal? Is there something different in the air down there?
Yeah, I mean, I got to give credit to AJ Minter, first of all, because he's the one that said it first. He's the one that kind of started this whole dialogue that we continue today and asked Snitker and Anthopoulos, Strider, all the guys about it. And for lack of a better term, I think you could really see it in AJ's eyes, that eye of the tiger type thing where, he's kind of dead-eyed. He was saying it look, no hesitation. It's World Series or bust for this team. And, I mean, he's right. I think there's not really any controversy behind that statement. I mean, this is a team that for basically all of last season was the best team in baseball. And anything less than that, I think you can safely say is a bust. So him saying that was huge. And it's kind of big also in the fact that Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snitker encourage that kind of talk. They're not trying to, dampen the flame a little bit and say, hey, we're just trying to go one game at a time. No, they're all about that. They're happy that they have guys like that are saying that. We asked Alex about it. We asked Brian about it. And he said, yeah, we encourage that. We want them to have that mindset. It's a testament to what this team is. We asked Charlie about it. He talked about being on different World Series teams, being on a lot of special teams in his career. And he said there hasn't really been one quite like the stretch of teams that he's been on in Atlanta here. So he knows good teams and he sees it. I think if you're going to trust any opinion on that, it is Charlie Morton's. He's been on different championship teams. So he's a guy that definitely spoke on that. Obviously, we know Spencer Strider. I think Spencer is sort of taking more of a leadership role this season, which is encouraging to see, you know, as far as speaking to him. I was in the locker room when they lost to Philadelphia, and he was really kind of that leader voice that kind of spoke out and said, hey, like, it's on me. We need to do better. We need to take that mantle and kind of, you know, be those big voices on this team, the leaders. Now, I think we are kind of excited to talk to Chris Sale and see if he's going to also be one of those guys. You know, we've been talking about looking for those Jock Petersons of the world, the Jorge Solers of the world, to kind of be that, for lack of a better term, a-hole on the team that can kind of, you know, be that guy to kind of push them over the edge. We are those MFers type guy. But I do think it's a good group of guys. You know, I think that's why they've been so good for the last 4, 5, 6 years now. And I expect that to continue. And me personally, as a person that's watched this team, that covers this team, I love that they're saying World Series or bust.
I'll leave you with one last question, Miles. You mentioned Spencer Strider, you mentioned Adrian Mentor, you mentioned Chris Sale, you know about Charlie Morton's experience, you know Max Fried is a leader, even if he's not necessarily a vocal leader. The pitching staff seems to have enough guys with a fiery personality. Who's the guy? Who's the position player that you think this team can look to? I know Jeff Francoeur mentioned Austin Riley on a podcast earlier this offseason. Matt Olson, we know he's a stud, but he kind of seems like a little bit of a jokester. Ronald Acuna, is he mature enough to take that next step as a leader? Who do you think the position player can step up into that role?
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with your first one. I think Austin Riley. I think he's become a little bit more vocal as he's had more years under his belt on this team. Saw him here early. He's one of the early arrivees, like I was saying earlier, and I think you can kind of tell. I mean, sometimes you don't have to say things to kind of get a vibe for how things are. Like today when they were out in the outfield taking BP, he was kind of leading the group of Matt Olson, Michael Harris, kind of leading them off the field. So maybe it's more of a visual thing, and maybe he isn't that guy. But based on what I've seen so far, it seems like Austin is that guy. Obviously, Michael, still a little young. Ronald Acuna Jr. not here yet, so I haven't been able to quite tell if maybe he's going to be that guy this year. Certainly, you know, he is your best player, so you would assume he's going to have some type of leadership role on this team. And Ozzie Albies as well. I mean, Ozzie at this point is basically one of your biggest veterans on the team, which is kind of crazy to say just because you still think of him as that rookie.
Longest tenured member of the team. So right now.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy to think about. But I mean, also you can't discount like Travis Darno, another guy who's in that locker room. The catcher kind of stands up for the team. A guy that I spoke to after that whole Harper fiasco in Philadelphia, who had some words to say about it. So, if I had to say two guys, I'd probably say Austin and Travis.
I can tell you about one guy that it won't be is Orlando Arcia. After what I saw in the playoffs, I still need to hear answers from him there. What the hell happened and what the hell he was thinking. I mean, that was to this day one of the more embarrassing things I've seen on a baseball field, and especially when you lose to your rivals twice the way that the Braves did, and then you just have to watch Bryce Harper look like such a consummate professional and a stud and a leader, and meanwhile Orlando Arcia is out there making baby faces in the dugout.
Not the best look. It is behind us. I will say in Orlando's defense, I mean, as a media member and people who were in there, that it was one person that kind of leaked whatever he said. I think there was an understanding in that locker room that wasn't supposed to get out. But again, it's in the past. We don't want to talk about it anymore.
It wasn't the attaboy. But anyways, Miles, thank you so much for joining us. We got to let you go. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. Y'all take care.